Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the new types and templates creation features in release 1.1. We're going to do that by starting a new project. I'm going to call it release demo. We're going to use the minimal template. And basically what we're going to try to do is recreate the episodic template that LoUPE ships with by building it from scratch. So we'll go ahead and click create here. And once that's set up, we're going to go to the templates tab. So on the templates tab here, you'll see that we still have the types and templates separated by tabs up here. And the first change you'll notice is that we've grouped the types by their kind, so libraries, entities, processes, and tasks. And for entities, processes, and tasks, you can create new types here. So to start recreating the episodic template, we're going to need a new entity called episode. So we'll go ahead and click create entity. You'll see that opens up in the editor over here. And we need to give it a name, which we're going to call episode. We need to pick a category. This is which library it's associated with, so we'll pick the shots. The kind will be entity, of course, and the type name we'll just call episode. So that's enough information to click save. And you'll see that we have our episode type. We actually want one more level of organization here called sequence. So the shots will be grouped into sequences, the sequences will be grouped into episodes, and the episodes will live in the shot library. So we'll create entity again. We'll call this type sequence. Again, shots. And we'll call the type sequence and hit save. So now we can start setting up the relationships between all of these things. If we go to the shot library and we scroll down in the editor to the allowed types, these are the types that are allowed to be created as children of shot library, both in templates, which we'll see later, and manually from the create menu or on the Kanban board. So in the minimal template, you can see that we allow shots, processes, and tasks to be created here. We're actually going to change that by turning these off and saying that we only want episodes to be created as direct descendants of the shot library, and hit save. Then we're going to go to the episodes, and we're going to say that the allowed children of episodes are actually sequences. We're going to hit save. We're going to go to sequences and say that the allowed children of sequences are shots, and we're going to hit save. And that gets us pretty close to what the episodic template gives you. We're going to go ahead and clean it up a little bit further just to enforce a very strict structure. So I'm going to click on my shot here. I'm going to turn off shot as an allowed child. I'm going to turn off task. I'm just going to allow processes here. I'm going to hit save. Then I'm going to go to my shot process. And I'm going to turn off processes here so that I'm only allowed tasks. And that just enforces a really rigid structure on the project in terms of where I can create these different types. I'm going to hit save. And now we can start templating. So when we create one of these entities, processes, or tasks, what does LoUPE automatically create for us as its children? So we go to the templates tab here, and you'll see that each type has a template, and they're all blank. So these are going to display as trees when they have children. But because we started with a minimal template, nothing here is set up. So we have our sequence and our episode templates. We actually want to leave these blank because when I make a new sequence, I don't want it to have anything in it. When I make a new episode, I likewise don't want it to have anything in it. But when I make a new shot, I actually want it to have some children set up for me, some processes predefined, and some tasks predefined. So to start, we click the Add Child button here. That opens up the editor, and we'll set up a couple of processes for our shot work. We'll call this one layout. We'll give it a short code called layout. We can pick from the allowed children that we set up on the type. So only process here. That'll fill out the rest of this information, and we can hit save. And you'll see that every time we make a shot, we're going to get a layout process now. That's great. We're going to add 2 tasks to the layout process. So we're going to call this first pass. Oops. And we're going to say that's a task. That's the only child we allowed for processes. Actually, that's invalid. We need to delete that space. And then we're going to hit save. And we're going to add a final task as well. And that's going to be a task 2. And we'll hit save. So now when we make a new shot, any shot, we're going to get a layout process, we're going to get a final task, and a first pass task. And we can keep doing that for other processes, but because we're going to keep using these two tasks, I'm actually going to go to the shot process itself, and I'm going to say add child here. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to enter our first pass task, space, that's going to be a shot task, hit save, and I'm going to add our final task. And that's going to be a task as well. Hit save. Okay, so now I can do a couple of things with this. Every time I make a new process manually on the Kanban board, for example, it's going to have a final task and a first pass task with it. That's great. But I can also, now on my shot template, add a new child and switch the editor to use existing template, which will let me pick a template from one that already exists and include that here. So if we want to add an animation process here, call this animation. Again, we need to give it a code, and then pick from an existing template here, the shot process template. That's the only allowed, the only template that is allowed here. So once I've done that, it fills that in for me. I hit save, and you'll see that we have an animation process that has the final and first pass tasks from the shot process. I still have my layout one that I set up manually, and we're basically ready to go at this point. You can keep going, obviously, using these techniques to set up your own workflow, but we can test it out by going to the Create New menu. This has also changed a little bit in Release 1.1. You'll see that we can now select from the allowed children types. So I'm in the shot library. I can make episodes here. I'll create one called episode 1. Leave the attributes blank for now. I'll click create, and I can roll this out. Select my episode 1. Here I'm allowed to make sequences. So we'll make a sequence here. And click create. And then roll that out. And then, of course, as child of sequences, we can make shots like we set up. So here we can start to make shots. And we'll call this shot 1. And click create. So now we can close this drawer, and to check that, we can go over to the Kanban board. You'll see that we have our episode 1 entity, our sequence 1 entity, and our shot 1 entity. And if we open that, we have our animation and layout processes and their children.